Hey, it's Wes. I want to thank you all for tuning in again. If you remember the last time we had church service, my sermon actually came from Psalm 46, and I want to reread it again today because honestly, it's a good one, and it's one that means a lot for a lot of people because specifically a couple passages within a lot of people know very, very well. And it's something people hold close to their hearts. It's something familiar. It's good. If you also remember back whenever I gave our last message prior to the shelter in place order, the lockdown, whatever you want to call it, took place, one of the things I talked about was very simple, and that was that no matter how bad the virus is, it will never be worse than the way that people react about the virus. And I think in a lot of ways that is true because you just can never doubt the dumb people in large groups. Just never doubt them. That's all I'm going to say. And it's one of those things where sometimes you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And common sense is a superpower. And the truth is that there's political people out there who are using it. There's idiots out there who are using it on both sides. And somewhere in the middle lies the real truth. And it's just one of those situations where it's best to just walk away from it and to not allow yourself to get inundated. In fact, the last week, 2 weeks, I pretty much quit watching most of the coverage, and I still go to. I use a news aggregate as the best way to describe it. I don't want to say specifically what it is because of reasons, but I use a news aggregate, and from it is where I get a lot of my information. And it's one of those places where if an idea is good, it'll stick around. If an idea is wrong or false, it'll be called out as such. And so it's a very, very good forum for people to be able to actually learn and to see things. But like I said, it's something that I've done, and I still go to it from time to time, but even on it, I've actually kind of taken a step back. And the reason why is because there's so much confusion going on right now. There's so many different reports of this is true, no, this is true, no, this is what's true, no, this is really what's true, that it's best to walk away and to kind of detox from a lot of it. So I want to talk about Psalm 46. And it says, God is our refuge and strength, a very present help in trouble. Therefore we will not fear, even though the earth be removed, and though the mountains be carried into the midst of the sea, though its waters roar and be troubled, though the mountains shake with its swelling. So, no matter how bad things really get, no matter how terrible they may seem, no matter how the waters may roar and trouble, and even if the mountains themselves shake, God is our refuge, a very present help in trouble. And it is important for us as Christians to recognize that this life, it is in fact temporary. Now, exactly what happens whenever we pass on from this life, I really don't know. There's a lot of people who believe that you go into what they call soul sleep, that basically you're more or less asleep until Christ calls you home. Some people believe you go straight to heaven. I personally believe you go straight to heaven because I believe that on the flip side of life, time is just a construct for this world. And so time on the other side, everything is already accomplished. And so therefore, why wait? But that's just me. There's a lot of different ideas on the concept of it. But the point of it is even in this world, God is still our refuge and our strength. A person who sits and worries and debates and thinks over the things that could go wrong, will go wrong, have gone wrong, they're far more likely to be upset, far more likely to be stressed through all of this than a person who is saying, you know what, I don't have control over this in the first place. I'm going to control the things that I can control. And then they say, what I can control is maybe I can't work right now because of a lockdown. But what I can do is I'm going to use this as an opportunity to straighten up my shed or sweep out my garage or straighten up my tools or whatever. Fill in the blank, whatever applies for you. And it's important to stay productive. And a lot of times, sometimes you just need something that anchors you. And our faith can be that anchor. I barely know what day of the week it is half the time. But I tell you what, I kind of actually look forward to making these little videos. I know I try to keep them brief just because the internet, for a lot of the people within our congregational in our area, that it's not as good as what it could potentially be. But also because, to be honest, in about 5 minutes, I already know there's going to be a screaming toddler in the background. And so it just is the way it is. But let's read on, verse 4. There is a river whose streams shall make glad the city of God, the holy place of the tabernacle of the Most High. God is in the midst of her, shall not be removed. Or shall not be moved. Oh gosh. I slept about 2 hours last night. Anyways, God shall help her just at the break of dawn. That almost looks like eat because I got the E in there. Just at the break of dawn. The nations raged, the kingdoms were moved. He uttered his voice, and the earth melted. There's a couple things in here I want to make note of. The tabernacle itself, if you ever get the opportunity to study it, there are a lot of things about the tabernacle that are of great significance. For instance, the Holy of Holies is a cubic area at the, I don't want to really call it the center, but it's the focal point of the tabernacle, and more specifically, really, of the temple itself, which the temple was kind of built based off the idea of the tabernacle. And what you find is that that's where God came down to meet with man. That is where God filled the temple from. And this holy place, God has set his feet upon this earth as Christ. God is in the midst of her. She shall not be moved. God is in our midst. Our Holy Father is with us. It may not always seem this way, it may not always feel this way, but He is. And it's also an important reminder that even though the nations themselves may rage and kingdoms were moved, He simply uttered His voice and the earth melted. If you go back and study the various ideas on how the earth was created, I don't know who came up with it first, but I was exposed to it through C.S. Lewis. The idea that God actually sang creation into being is not a foreign idea, and that God, whenever He began that singing, He only started, and almost as if in a sense the Big Bang is really God beginning to sing, and the voice itself actually carries on creation to this very day, even though He Himself only sang for just a brief moment. Verse 7, the Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge. He is our refuge. Verse 8, come, behold the works of the Lord, who has made desolations in the earth. He makes war cease to the end of the earth. He breaks the bow and cuts the spear in two. He burns the chariot of fire. It's talking about how He is ending war. A lot of times back in those days, the person who could end war was great. And the idea of taking them, breaking the bow, breaking the spear, burning the chariot, that's destroying the weapons of war itself, what people use to wage warfare, and taking it away from them. And it's interesting to note that in all of this, it is God who makes the earth free from these things. He makes the wars cease. He makes these struggles that are really, truly in vain stop. And probably the verse out of all this, the one everyone knows the most, is this, verse 10. Be still and know that I am God. Those I am statements appear a lot through Scripture, especially in the book of John. I am. It first appears in the burning bush with Moses, the great I am. He says, be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. I am God. For a Christian, this is something for us to never underestimate. Gotta log in and do that. No, I want to log in right now. Be still and know that I am God. I am. And it's important for us to be still, to watch, to see what it is that God is doing through all of these things. All these things are terrible, but all these things will end. It's just a question of when. In verse 11, the Lord of hosts is with us. The God of Jacob is our refuge. He is our refuge. In Him we find our faith, our strength, our hope. We find everything, really. And it is important for us to be still and know that I am God. And during times like this, that is hard to do. It really is. But at the same time, it's what you can do. And to be quite honest, it's what's best for you. Anyways, I hope you all have a safe and happy week, and God bless you.